been struggling to grow your business, we have a very impactful speaker today. His name is Steve Anderson, and he will talk about 14 principles to grow your business like Amazon. And he's very famous. He is an expert in strategic risk and business growth, and he has decades of experience in the insurance industry, and he wrote the Bezos Letters, 14 Principles to Grow Your Business Like Amazon, which has become a Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and international bestseller. And he has hundreds of thousands of followers as well, which makes him look extra cool as well for all of our audience here. And the first question is, Amazon has become synonymous with business growth and innovation. Can you explain what strategies from what Amazon is using should entrepreneurs leverage today? Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success, through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
I can certainly start trying to do that, Lily, and thank you for having me. So in the book, I go through, as you said, the 14 principles. So there are a lot of principles there that businesses can learn from Amazon. And I even want to say, even small businesses, because you have to remember that Amazon started, like many, if not every business, small and then grew from there. And I got very intrigued with how they did it. So I would say a couple of the principles seem to resonate maybe a little bit more with people. I think the first one, and I've just a little background, I've grouped the principles into 4 what I call cycles or business cycles: test, build, accelerate, and scale. And it's a way for everybody to be able to grasp a little bit better kind of where these principles flow. So the first one I'll talk about is in the test cycle. It's called encourage successful failure. And that's where my, insurance risk management came about, because encourage successful failure, what does that even mean? Well, at Amazon, Bezos talked a lot about experimentation that they need to do, employees need to do at Amazon. And experimentation means you're going to fail. Because if you're going to do an experiment and it's going to work, it's not an experiment. But you test things, you experiment with it, you learn from the failures, and that allows you to invent on behalf of the customer. And again, that's a phrase Bezos used over and over again, to invent on behalf of the customer. And it's really counterintuitive. In the insurance industry, we're all about reducing risks, mitigating risks, transferring risks, not taking more risk. And technology continues to develop so rapidly that you can't just wait and see what's going to happen. You've got to reach out more proactively and encourage your employees to do the same. So that's one. And I can go on and talk about a lot of other ones there. But again, I want to say you're likely not going to be as big as Amazon is. That doesn't mean you can't learn from Jeff Bezos and from the success he built into Amazon.
Thank you. Tell us more about other principles that you have in your book that entrepreneurs can leverage in order to grow their business to the highest possible caliber.
I think it's another one, and it's in the build cycle, is called obsess over customers. And again, I'll pause and say, every business knows they have to take care of customers. There's a difference, though, in how Bezos thought about it. And he talked about this in his very first shareholder letter in 1997. And he said, we will obsess over customers. And that's always intrigued me, that word obsess, because, as I said, every business knows they need to take care of customers, good customer service, customer journey, customer focus, lots of different words used about that. But when the word obsess is used, it's a different level, I think. In fact, it could be negative, right? So people who are too obsessive often are talked about in negative terms, but can you be too obsessed over customers? And over the years, Amazon has built on that and has three customer pillars. And these are things I think that every business needs to think about. For Amazon, the customer pillars are low prices, wide selection, and fast delivery. And Bezos said, I can't imagine a time when a customer is going to want higher prices, less selection, and slower delivery. So when you look at what they've done in obsessing over customers, they continue even today to build on those three pillars. They continue to offer low prices. They continue to broaden the selection of what you can buy there. And they continue to develop logistics so they can deliver not in 2 days, but in 1 day or 1 hour, depending on where you're located. I think for businesses, having that focus on the customer is really important. And the way I like to talk about it is, do you know, as a business owner, where the friction points are in your customer interaction? And every business has them. I mean, but what is it that stops the customer from wanting to do business with you or breaks that step-by-step process? And often businesses don't know that because they don't shop at their own business. They know it so well, but there may be things customers experience that they don't realize. And customer obsession means that you understand your customers' wants, needs, and desires so deeply that you can invent on their behalf.
Thank you. One of the things that I love the most about Amazon is the fact that you can enter your address and your preferred location for delivery, and then that is saved for the next time so that every time I order, I don't have to enter my data again. And I wonder what you suggest in terms of ease of use so that entrepreneurs can leverage the same sort of system. The only thing is, do companies tend to have that kind of system? I doubt most companies have that. I haven't really seen that many companies who do.
Well, and that became a real competitive advantage for Amazon, exactly what you described. And they actually invented and patented the one-click shopping because, again, you have to remember now, kind of early internet days back in the late 90s and early 2000s, you had to enter your information every time. If you were shopping online, it wasn't as easy as it is today. And again, that customer focus obsession kept them developing easier and easier ways for you, the customer, to interact with them online. And when I ask people, why do you shop on Amazon? They say exactly what you just said. It's easy, right? In fact, I would argue it may be too easy sometimes, but for Amazon, that's good. And for consumers, I include myself in that same category. It makes it easy. And I ask the question, is it worth going to the store for what I want, or can I just order it on Amazon knowing it'll get here quickly? And so they have spent billions of dollars and years, and they continue to do that, refining all of those processes. So again, back to business owners, are you thinking that way for your customers? Are you thinking, how can I make it easier so that they will come to me to buy, not somebody else? And it doesn't have to be just online. That same process could be, a typical physical retail store. How are you improving the way customers can interact with you?
Thank you. Another thing that I love about Amazon, and I really am a big Amazon shopper, I love the fact that you can, let's say, every time I scroll through TikTok, for example, and I'm so interested in like improving my hair, for example. So I'm always looking at, hair products or, hair growth products or stuff like that. Every time I see an influencer that mentions a particular product that I like, then instead of maybe like buying it from the influencer, what I do is I go to Amazon and then I add it to my shopping cart and then even if I don't buy it there and then, I will just add it to my shopping cart. And what I really like is that I can come back in a month and it will still be there. And if it's not there, I will have moved it to save for later. I really love the save for later list.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I do go back, when I'm ready to buy the actual product, and I have, let's say, sifted through 5 different influencers, and I'm looking at, okay, I can buy maybe like the perfume spray for hair. I can buy the, oil for hair. I can buy the whatever batana oil for hair and this kind of thing for hair growth. So I have sifted through the list of what I want, then I go and I buy everything. So I really like that save for later list. And it does incentivize you to buy a lot more than you would normally, because let's say normally if you would scroll through and you wouldn't buy there and then, that would be like a missed opportunity on both sides, for me to grow my hair and look really pretty, and for the vendor as well. So what concept do you recommend entrepreneurs should leverage from this idea, or something similar that you recommend from your book?
Yeah, definitely. And again, one of the things that, again, Amazon has spent so much time on all those little details, right? Some businesses would think, well, so what? But Amazon is obsessive, I keep saying that word, over those little details because it improves the customer experience. And what it does also, and to me, this is really interesting, Amazon didn't advertise very much, certainly in the early days. What they believed was if we make it easier for the customers to shop on our site, then it will bring more customers, because you'll talk about it. It will bring more customers in, which allows them then to negotiate lower prices. And it's that whole process is called the flywheel, which is another principle of what is core in your business and what are the inputs that you can continue to build into it to grow that core. Now, for Amazon, the core was growth. And so easier shopping brings more customers, allows them to negotiate better prices, which brings more customers. It's that what they call the virtual cycle. And again, all of those points are really important as part of the entire process. And they haven't stopped. They continue to do that. And I think that's another important point with Amazon, is this is built into their culture, and they continue to look for ways to improve, even when arguably they're the largest, e-commerce retailer worldwide, 1.3 million employees. I mean, all of those big numbers, but they still try and act like a startup and continue to build and change. And they've had a amazing ability to actually create entirely new businesses. So one I want to mention briefly is their marketplace, because again, really counterintuitive business idea. This is the early 2000s, and they allowed third-party sellers, non-Amazon sellers, space on their website. And I want to go back to that encourage successful failure. They tried 3 different ways to implement that. They had what they called C shops. They had Amazon auctions. They were trying to compete with eBay. And then they finally came up with Marketplace, allowing third parties literally on the same product page as Amazon sells to list their products. And here's what Bezos said. I mean, who in their right mind allows your competitor to sell on your own page? But what Bezos said is, if a third-party seller has a product at a better price than we do, that's better for the customer. If they have inventory that we don't, that's better for the customer. And that will continue to bring customers back to Amazon, because now they know they can go to one place and find the best selection, best price, fastest delivery, all at the same time. And now those third-party sellers account for over 60% of the sales on Amazon. Now, Amazon takes a fee, a piece of that sale, so they make money on that. But again, they're focused on the customers. They've expanded out the opportunities that you have as a customer to find all of those TikTok product endorsements and be able to buy them.
Thank you. So how can entrepreneurs leverage this exact idea in order to increase their own sales? would you recommend that a big brand would encourage other brands to advertise on their own website?
There are a few that have tried it, a couple here in the US, Walmart and Target, large physical retailers have tried to do the similar thing. I think Amazon has a unique culture there that is allowing them to be able to do that successfully. I think it should be an experiment that they try. Back to that. Let's try, let's see what happens. Let's track what works, what doesn't work. Definitely works for Amazon. Will it work for others? I don't know. But it's a really counterintuitive business thought process.
Thank you. Tell us about another principle that's so important for entrepreneurs to leverage.
In the accelerate cycle, the one I will pick is generate high velocity decisions. So as businesses grow, they tend to add bureaucracy or layers of management. And what Bezos said is there really are only two types of decisions that a business needs to make or does make. Type 1 decisions are big. They're what I call bet the farm type decisions. And those, he says, should be made with as much data as you can gather, made by senior people in the organization, and made slowly. He said the problem is there are very, very few type 1 decisions. Type 2 decisions, on the other hand, are the common daily decisions that a business makes. And he says those decisions should be made quickly with only 70% of the information you wish you had. I mean, you don't wait, analysis paralysis, and made by the lowest people capable of making the decision in the organization. So you don't have to push that up into higher levels. He said, when you add bureaucracy as a business, as you're growing, and there's a natural tendency to do that, he said, it just slows down growth. It slows down the experimentation. It slows down the learning process. It slows down moving forward more rapidly. And so I think as business owners, you start growing, be conscious of decision making and how it's done in your organization. And even, I found this myself, having started, a couple of businesses, the idea that I have to make all decisions. Well, if you hire people and you hire quality people and you hire them for their skill level, give them the ability and authority to make those decisions, understanding that if they make a wrong decision, it's not going to kill the company. You can pivot, you can change, and monitor what's going on. And that will help move that organization faster to its goals.
Thank you. You've grown to hundreds of thousands of followers. I wonder how entrepreneurs can leverage that in order to grow their business.
So yeah, on LinkedIn, and it's really this interesting, and people ask, how did I do that? I don't know. I was on LinkedIn early. I put a lot of content there. Somehow I got recognized by somebody at LinkedIn, asked me if I would like, this was a new program. It was like 2013. And, I think on one hand, it's, you never know who's watching the content that you create and what you put out there. And you never know what results you might have because of that. I think what I would say is, content is important. Video, audio, like we're doing now, all of these things help get your thoughts and ideas as an individual out into the marketplace and let people react to it. And some will like it, some won't. But it is, for business owner, having that visibility into your target market, whatever that might be, is an important tool in today's world.
Thank you. Tell us about one more principle entrepreneurs can leverage to grow their business like Amazon.
I'm going down through the cycles, but I'm going to go to the scale cycle. And actually the last principle, number 14, is called believe it's always day one. And I've mentioned earlier, Amazon tries to act like a startup even today. And I think very few people would call Amazon a startup. But this idea of believing it's day one helps them reinforce culturally in their organization to think like a startup. Here's the background. Jeff Bezos was giving at an all-hands meeting in Seattle, a couple thousand employees, quarterly process that he did, update on the company, what's happening. And then at the end, he opened it up for questions, and questions were submitted beforehand. The question he had in his hand was, Jeff, what does day two look like? So day one has been a phrase he's used from the very beginning of the shareholder letters that he wrote. And he said in that first 1997 letter, it's day one for the internet and also for Amazon.com if we execute well. And then every single letter he wrote subsequent to that, he always ended with some version of it's still day one, it's always day one. That day one idea of the excitement that you had when you opened your business for the first time, customers coming in, you have a product, you're getting some success. How do you keep that excitement as a business grows? He answered the question that, Jeff, what does day two look like? With day two is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. And that's why it's always day one. Now, part of the research I did when I wrote the book was looking at companies that had once been very successful and are no longer here. We know lots of those names, some we don't. But that day two process is evident in the decline of businesses. And so how do you fend off a day two mindset? That was the question he asked that he thought was actually more important. And briefly, there were 4 items. Customer obsession, we talked about. A skeptical view of proxies, which we didn't, but that's processes and procedures that no longer serve the customer. So don't get stuck in the way you've always done it. It's the way I look at it. Number 3 is eager adoption of external trends. Certainly the one right now is generative AI. And will it work? Will it not work? But experimenting with it. And then the last one is high velocity decision making, which we talked about. So he thinks those 4 things are how a company, even the size of Amazon, can continue to be in a day one mindset, not down the path of day two. And in fact, you look at Amazon right now and what they're doing, they've called all employees back. You know, you could argue, is that good or bad? But I believe it's the current CEO, Andy Jassy's way to continue that day one mindset and not let Amazon slip into a day two process.
Wow, that's so fascinating. Tell us one more principle that you've talked about in your book about how entrepreneurs can leverage Amazon's principles to grow their business.
Another one I'll look at is what I call make complexity simple. So we've talked kind of on the edges already. We talked about the website. We talked about storing information. We talked about those kinds of things. And I still remember vividly where I came up with this idea. And I was in the midst of researching and working out principles and all of that. And I was listening to an interview with a pharmacy executive CEO, large pharmacy chain here in the US. And Amazon had just purchased a company called PillPack, which was a online pharmacy company that targeted people who took multiple medications a day. And what they did was they packaged the medications all together in one pack for each different time of the day. So all someone had to do was pull it out, open it up, all the medications were there. They didn't have to count out into a pill box or any of that kind of stuff. And the CEO in the interviews reacting to Amazon coming into the pharmacy space said, I'm not worried about Amazon coming in because the pharmacy process is more complex than they realize. And I remember thinking, and I literally said out loud, but that's what Amazon does, is they make complexity simple. And everything we've talked about is that principle. So again, in your business, what are complex things that you can make simpler, again, in service of the customer? So all of these ideas, and I will say, each principle stands on its own, but they also interact with one another. So it's not just this or just that, but it's how they react and how you can look at those principles and think about your business. Where can I do better in my business, both internally with operations and externally with customers?
Thank you. Which of these principles have you personally used in your business, and which of these principles was the most impactful?
So I would say, an example that comes to mind is the high velocity decision making. And I need to explain a little background we haven't talked about yet, but in 2004, Jeff Bezos sent an email around to the senior leadership team at Amazon and said, we no longer will allow PowerPoint or slide-oriented presentations in our meetings, right? So typical, somebody puts a slide deck together, goes to a meeting, I want this decision, I want this new project approved, whatever it might be, goes through the bullet points of the slide, etc. You said, we're not doing that anymore. You will have to write a memo, a physical written memo, maximum of 6 pages, explaining what you want to do, explaining how the customer will benefit, and answering what you consider to be the most frequent questions that people will have. That memo is not sent out beforehand. It's handed out at the meeting. And people literally sit there at the first part of the meeting and read the memo together. Because what Bezos said is executives at Amazon are busy. They'll say they read it, but they won't. So we're going to carve out time. It's the idea of slowing down to speed up. Now, what happens is literally everybody's on the same page. They're not that back and forth. They're not, oh, I'm going to talk about that in the next slide or any of that kind of stuff. Everybody literally has read it. And now the conversation becomes much richer. So that's the background. I started a new business about 4 years ago, and looking for investors. I did a 6-page memo, presented that to 15 organizations that I was pitching to invest in this new company. And it took a couple weeks to write. It's really hard, but it also forces you to think through in deeper detail than you would on a PowerPoint, because it's easy to hide behind PowerPoint bullets, frankly. Made me think deeper. And it was an excruciating 20 minutes as they read the memo, and I was just sitting there waiting for them to finish. But as I had hoped, the conversation became much better, questions they may have that we spent time already were answered. They went into other areas that we discussed, and I ended up with 7 of the 15 investing. So the principles work. Culturally, it's a bit of a shift, a mindset for a business owner. But I kind of tell people that, wouldn't it be nice to have Jeff Bezos as a business coach? Now, it's unlikely that's going to happen. I think this is the next best thing.
Wow, I love that. What's the difference between a memo and a presentation in terms of format? Is it that the memo has only writing, only text, and it doesn't have any images at all, and it just explains on a deeper level what the concept there? What?
Yes. So I think a couple things happen. One is it's almost more for the person who's pitching the idea than it is for the meeting participants. Meaning, Bezos talks a lot about this process, and he said, a good memo takes a couple of weeks. So, and it forces the team, the individual and the team, to delve deeper into what they know, what they don't know, resources they'll need, and think through much deeper than they would if they just threw some bullet points up on a slide deck. And so that writing for Bezos is a really important tool to help clarify thinking. I often say, I don't know how or what I think about something until I actually write about it, because it forces me more logical, more in depth, this doesn't make sense. How do, all of those kinds of things. There is something that happens when you are forced to write and have it physically on a piece of paper. The physical piece of paper is more for the participants because they actually read it, because they have time carved out. So it's a really interesting process.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.